Can you tell when someone is manipulating public opinion, your opinion? If you're tired of right-left politics, join us at Red Zone Politics and get wise to the game of political perception. Welcome to Red Zone Politics, where we make uncommon sense of American politics, sports, and culture. RZP is a forum for real political independents, sports fans, and culture vultures. We like our politics smart, our sports full of heart, and our culture diverse, enlightening, and yes, sometimes ridiculous and tacky. I'm your host, A.F. Cook, author of Democrats in the Red Zone, an independent voter's take on the game of political perception. In the book, which I published prior to the 2008 election, I compare perception to a football. And as every fan knows, who controls the ball controls the game. At Red Zone Politics, we offer three things to consider when evaluating your own ability to think like a real independent. A, will you call out members of your own team when you believe they're wrong? B, are you open to new information? And C, are you aware of your own biases and the degree to which they may prevent you from changing your mind about something? What make you of Blanche Lincoln's win? Because I think it's a Pyrrhic victory for Lincoln and for the Democratic Party. I think it's very likely that she may not be able to pull out the win in November against the Republican, given the animosity toward her from large chunks of the liberal base.
Well, a lot of our good politicians are very principled, and the principle is to win at any cost. And I think of Arlen Specter as it didn't work for him in Philadelphia, but that is changing parties and frankly coming out and saying, I'm doing this because I'm not going to win as a Republican, so I'm going to try it as a Democrat. She didn't change her party label, but she changed her politics, I think, big time when she came to town.
And I think Republicans know how to tap into that. They just know how to tap into people's emotions, and you know, the phrases that they use elicit extreme emotional reactions.
This is interesting what you're saying, because the Democrats are often viewed as the touchy-feely party. So why are Republicans better at sensing people's emotions? There's some, I mean, that's very interesting.
You know, I think you're actually right. I think Democrats, it's funny. I think Democrats really don't think about the emotional aspect of voters as much as they need to. They think about, oh, if we do enough, if we create enough programs, if we take enough action, people are going to notice, and that's not true.
We're going to talk about this in a little bit. We're going to get back to that because Adrian Fenty kind of just was the poster child for what you were just talking about. Howard, any response to some of these bits of GOP rhetoric that they use like mantras? The Obamacare is constant.
But this is, I grew up in the Watergate era. I was in elementary school when Watergate happened, and grew up around a breakfast table with Hubert Humphrey Democratic parents. And so, you know, this type of rhetoric has come from both sides. This is not unusual. In fact, you know, someone coming from the African American community, I was I'm surprised that it hasn't been worse, you know, personally. You know, so I'm not I can't really attack them for going after this guy. This isn't their man. I expect them to go after him.
Oh, go after Obama.
Go after Obama.
Okay. There's the government presuming to do the moral thing, and let's say intervening down in the South in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. I don't know if we'd all agree here that if we had left those God-fearing Americans in the South to their own devices, people would have continued to be killed, people would have not been allowed to go and walk into schools, and you know, the feds had to send some enforcement people down there to enforce the laws to protect a certain class of people that were clearly under assault from white racists in the South. So we have this model of the government as a purveyor of moral correctness. But then we have, you know, the other side in the Glenn Beck model saying we don't need the government and, you know, in providing moral guidance here. We can do it ourselves. Well, clearly sometimes you can't. When is the difference? When is it right for the government to act as the guardian of, you know, making sure that everybody's protected and represented, and when is it not? My understanding is that no one on this panel except me last night saw the phantom goal that allowed the Chicago Blackhawks to win their first Stanley Cup championship, at least in 49 years, last night. And it was very exciting. It was overtime. So we won't talk about it. All I can say is congratulations, Blackhawks, and I hope Obama's happy.
Actions speak louder than words, and when somebody takes that oath and then does nothing while the border with Arizona and New Mexico is a sieve, and then sues the state of Arizona for trying to defend its own citizens, I have a problem with that.
It's political correctness run amok, and it's really any group that is petitioning policymakers in this country or Americans for something they feel they deserve. They actually have a responsibility themselves to see what it's like from the majority perspective. Don't just go out and demand that, you know, instant citizenship when you've come here illegally. There's no instant replay in baseball, so you can't go back and fix it. It stands once the umpire calls it. But the interesting thing about how this unfolded was, of course, at first there was a lot of frustration by the fans and everybody, and of course by the Detroit Tigers manager, but everybody handled it graciously. The pitcher and the umpire were very apologetic about it. You know, what does this say about sort of, A, whether there should be, in fact, instant replay in baseball, but, you know, to see people behave that way in a sports arena with that level of grace, I don't know what you think, Don. That was kind of unusual, isn't it?
Well, it certainly kind of refutes the image of men and going toe-to-toe and fighting over anything and everything at any opportunity. And I think what this demonstrates is that strong, professional, virile athletes can be empathetic, and it kind of dispels the belief that those two things are mutually exclusive.
In my view, is it really our business? That's what I would say. I do think that Americans and even politicians and even public figures are actually entitled to a private life, and people are human.
People often blame Washington for these kind of shenanigans, and I often ask, well, where do these people come from? Well, they come from South Carolina.
Well, Palin, actually, Sarah Palin supports her, so
Right.
you know that's going to help her out. Palin is using rhetoric, she's using new rhetoric. She's calling her and anybody else a conservative reformer. So see what you can make of that. I think that's a very interesting concept. And she's also making a regular habit of comparing GOP women to grizzlies and pit bulls. I don't know how you would feel about being compared to a pit bull or grizzly, with lipstick, obviously.
Well, it depends on what traits of the pit bulls and the grizzlies they're talking about.
Yeah, probably, you know, the character.
I mean, a pit bull can be very tenacious. They can also be vicious. You know, so it depends on the situation.
Tony, what do you think about how President Obama is being perceived and handling the politics of this? There shouldn't really be any politics, but there are.
No, there shouldn't be any politics. I mean, here's the thing. If the government knew how to fix this mess, we would. You know, the government would fix it. You know, the president is very charismatic. You know, he's looked up to by a lot of people. And I think, unfortunately, people have this idea in their head that, you know, because, you know, he's so charismatic and very likable, that he should be all things to all people. And you know what? That's a lot to demand out of a president.
Hello?
You know, I mean, he's not a scientist. He's not an engineer. You know, how can anyone in politics, you know, fix an oil spill?
He's just really, really cool.
Yeah.
But it's like Spike Lee was saying, you know, Spike Lee was on CNN, the filmmaker Spike Lee, was saying, yes, he's cool, calm, and collected, but once in a while, you gotta go off. We do have one serious sports aficionado in the house, of course, which is Patrick, who's involved in basketball, other than yours truly. So if the rest of you have anything to contribute, we welcome your thoughts. But first to the man himself, Pat Fitzpatrick, who's in the sort of right sport at the right time. We're talking Celtics-Lakers NBA championship going on right now. What are your thoughts on how that's going?
Well, it's very exciting right now. They've got Game 4 tonight, played in Boston, and this will be the second of the 3 games that they play in Boston. And home team advantage, home court advantage plays a big part in this series, like it usually does. Except
it didn't work for the Lakers in Game 2, and it didn't work for the Celtics in Game 3. So what's with that?
Exactly. You know, that's changed a little bit, but I think it still plays a factor. Guys are used to their home locker room. They're used to their home court. They're used to driving to the game from their house, seeing their families in the afternoon. It's a rhythm game, and those guys get into that rhythm, so it plays a factor.
That's our show for today. I want to thank all of our guests. We'll see you next time on Red Zone Politics. And remember, if you want to succeed on the political playing field, you've got to understand the game of perception.